as the ALP is saying, look, when we switched our strategy in the face of a large crisis, everyone said we were spending like drunken sailors, or at least our opponents did. And they're feeling a bit miserable that the government is now doing roughly what they did. I'm not feeling that sympathetic to them, simply because, you expect this in politics. Everybody's doing this. We saw what Paul Keating did, turning on a dime on the GST when it was convenient for him. One of the differences, I think, that is quite significant is that the ALP government was following the advice of their bureaucrats, and then started apologising. Then they started saying, we'll be back in surplus within, I think it was 3 years, and then it was 4 years, and then it was more or less never. And if you are going to say that, if you are going to stand in front of the Australian people and say, if there's a recession, we will deficit spend, you can't at the same time say, oh, and there won't be any, we know how things are going to work out in the next 3 or 4 years, and we're going to get back to surplus anyway.
It's an interesting contrast if you're trying to invest in the future, that you're putting a lot of money into things like roads, and you're starving the university sector, which would be where you probably would invest if you wanted to further grow the productive capacity of the economy. You want smarter, better educated people.
A good thing to keep in mind is, if you want to invest, keep this in mind, that human capital, there is 3-4 times as much human capital in our economy as fixed capital. Yes. So where would you spend the money? Now, again, the previous stimulus, there was a large chunk spent on education, but it was education with Bob the Builder hats on. It was really going to be education, which means, of course, we all know buildings and school halls. Unfortunately, we still have a kind of an economic imagination that's located more in the 50s.
Yeah, so I was just going to pick up on Nick's point as well about the university sector and how pretty terribly they've been treated throughout all of this. I think it's one of the few sectors where we didn't extend JobKeeper, and we introduced JobKeeper to stop a lot of that creative, just like the destruction of economies that would happen, not necessarily creative destruction, but just the one that we didn't extend that support to was the university sector, which I find, the government had all of these statements about how it wanted to ensure that industries are protected, and the one that it didn't protect was the university sector. But I want to make a special remark about migrant families, and the fact that one of our biggest budgetary savings was extending what's called the newly arrived residence waiting period, all payments. So that's the 4-year waiting period that migrants on permanent visas have to wait before they're eligible for benefits. And previously that applied to things like Job Seeker or New Start, but now they're applying it to family payments, including paid parental leave, dad and partner pay, FDBA and FDBB, which were previously exempt. So, and it's giving the government about $700 million worth of savings. It should make us ask why. Like, why are you doing that? What is the reasoning? Are the incentives not the same for migrants as they are for the rest of the population?
You're right, Gabriela. And so there's that migrant group, but there are also some families that are missing out if they're on benefits. The addition to the job seeker payment has been taken away, the supplement, and we knew that was going to happen. But families who are on benefits will continue to do it pretty tough. And the budget doesn't address that particular question at all.